Mark your calendars because Cheekwood is throwing its very first community celebration, June 3rd through June 7th. And guess what? You're invited. Enjoy 5 days packed full of fun for all ages, from free yoga and $5 gardening classes to live music, puppets, and even a Taylor Swift dance party. And when the sun goes down, catch the Princess Bride under the stars or a Shakespearean cocktail crawl. It's all happening at Cheekwood. Learn more at cheekwood.org. Today on CityCast Nashville, Immigration and Customs Enforcement partnered with the Tennessee Highway Patrol on Sunday to stop and detain dozens of Nashville residents. It was the biggest ICE action in Nashville so far. Brenda Perez, an organizer with the Remix Tennessee, joins us to give her firsthand account of what happened and talk about where we go from here. It's Tuesday, May 6th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Brenda, thank you so much for joining us today at CityCast Nashville. I know that you are currently in a church in South Nashville with other organizers, so we really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us.
Yes, thank you for reaching out.
In the wee hours of Sunday morning, ICE and Tennessee Highway Patrol made as many as 150 traffic stops in South Nashville. According to the Nashville Banner, this resulted in the detention of somewhere between 40 and 100 people. What neighborhoods were they in?
For what we know from people who were on the ground and responding, they were in South Nashville. So they were off places off like Knowlesville Road, Thompson Lane, and Harding Place, which is, the center of like the Latino immigrant community here in Nashville.
The Tennessee Highway Patrol says the areas they targeted have a history of serious traffic crashes and suspected gang activity. What's your response to that?
Their activity was 100% racial profiling. They were not out here doing traffic stops. Each state trooper was operating with at least one or two unmarked ICE vehicles. So immediately after they pulled somebody over, the ICE officer would come to the car. So this was not traffic enforcement. This was 100% racial profiling between THP and ICE.
And I understand that trained volunteers were monitoring the Migro Watch line overnight.
Yeah, so the Migro Watch hotline is monitored by a group of volunteers, and these is made out of community residents, clergy, people who understand that what we are living through is an extension of the police state and is an extension of like anti-immigrant policies and are ready to like step up and be on the right side of history. So they were able to take video, to record, and to share information out to the community about what was happening.
When did you first hear about ICE's presence?
We first heard about it around like 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. And so our team, dispatched and went out there and investigated and started recording the tactics that they were using. And so there was one gentleman, he's a DoorDash driver. He says he DoorDashes till like 2 a.m. typically on a Saturday, but it was like 1:30 and he was kind of getting ready to go because he's had a good night. So he said he pulled up to a traffic light and the THP official or, vehicle was to the right of him and he was in the left lane and the traffic light turned green and he waited for them to go. He's like, I'm just going to go. I'm not going to go. And, and they didn't go and he didn't go. And then he was like, okay, I'm going to go now. And he said, as soon as he started driving, that THP vehicle pulled behind him and pulled him over. He didn't remember the reason they told him why they pulled him over. But immediately after that, ICE vehicles pulled behind THP and were at his door. Another woman, her name is Anna, who was released as well, told us that she was driving near the zoo, on Nolensville near the zoo around 3 a.m. and that the THP pulled her over because her window tint was too dark. And as soon as they, pulled her over, told her her window tint was too dark, the ICE officials were at her door, pulling her out and arresting her and her fiance. So it was very much, collaboration. And what is really, kind of scary about that is that, if police just starts coming up with random reasons, to pull people over, we can just see this expand to so many other things, So these kinds of tactics, everybody should be concerned about because there's, reasonable suspicion, due process completely out the window.
And there was a vigil at the ice field office on Brickchurch Pike as the detainees were being processed and loaded into buses. Can you describe the scene to us and what you heard from others who were on site?
There was a crew of volunteers that went out on Sunday morning to the ice field office just to see if there was increased activity or what was going on, because THP didn't put out a statement and ICE didn't share any information as to where these people were taken. Upon arriving, the volunteers spotted two kind of large Greyhound-style buses and a Metro Nashville Police vehicle parked in the parking lot. It was seeing the Metro Nashville Police vehicle parked in the parking lot that triggered the volunteers into calling like a vigil, into calling a press conference. Because as we know, the city has made numerous statements that there is no collaboration between MMPD and ICE. But before anybody was there, anybody had gone and even stepped foot onto the sidewalk or onto the street there, MMPD had cars parked there. On a local level, we've heard numerous times that MMPD does not have a commitment to work with ICE, that they don't collaborate, but it was very, very clear that they were there. You know, the police officer was not in the car. As we got closer, we saw there was like movement of vehicles. We took photographs and some video of them coming in and out. And we had one of our council members was there with us as well to witness this. And so after seeing Metro Nashville Police Department cars there, volunteers contacted the organizing team. And that's when we reached out to like council members to come out to respond to MMPD presence at the ICE facility and to speak out against the conditions that we were still kind of learning about and investigating. As we arrived there, we also started to meet with some people that were being released. These were like women and men who were just released with their belongings in a bag. And we heard from them about what happened and what the conditions were inside. One of the gentlemen described that he was held in a cell that was 10 feet by 10 feet with 23 other people with no water, no food, and a toilet in the corner and no air conditioning. And as people were being held in there, they were telling them that they needed to sign their voluntary deportation orders. So when you're holding people under those kinds of conditions, nothing can be voluntary. We held a press conference to share the stories of what happened Saturday night and Sunday morning. And family members that were looking for their loved ones also shared about like the process of what it feels like to have your family member be taken with no communication from anybody. We needed to get like an understanding of all of what was happening and what were people's roles in this detention of our local residents.
Were lawyers able to be present also?
There were some lawyers that were present from other immigrant rights organizations as they were trying to get in contact with the family members that were looking for their loved ones at the site.
And according to the Tennessee Lookout, Turk now has attorneys working to bring people back. Do you know how that's going?
The remix is in collaboration with Turk, and we're like sharing information as we get contacted by family members, but we're holding that kind of litigation process, you know, in closed circles because we want to make sure that people feel supported.
Cowboy Up Nashville! Music City Rodeo, Nashville's first and only PRCA rodeo, is coming to Bridgestone Arena for 3 unforgettable nights featuring the world's top pro rodeo athletes and live music from Nashville legends. Reba on May 29th, Jelly Roll on May 30th, and Tim McGraw on May 31st. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, each night ticketed separately. For more information, visit MusicCityRodeo.com. If you haven't heard yet, Cheekwood is hosting their very first community celebration, June 3rd through June 7th. That's 5 days packed full of fun for all ages. During the day, you can come and enjoy free yoga with Small World Yoga. Explore a musical petting zoo brought to you by our friends at the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. Catch performances by the Nashville Opera or the Nashville Puppet Truck. There will also be a friendship bracelet making station, animals from the Nashville Zoo. Oh, and how could I forget? $5 gardening classes for the whole family. Then, as the sun sets, grab dinner from one of the many food trucks and watch The Princess Bride under the stars. Or sip your way through a Shakespearean cocktail crawl, courtesy of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. You can also catch an evening with Grammy Award winner Rodney Crowell, dance to music from Sonny Dada and his 12-piece band, or sing along to everyone's favorite Beatles songs with Forever Abbey Road. There's something for everyone of all ages, so come on by. Learn more at cheekwood.org. Based on what you witnessed, did anyone in Nashville leadership know this was going to happen?
I think the collaboration between the Tennessee State Police and ICE, I don't think our local people were involved. I think like our council members that showed up were just as shocked. The clergy members that showed up were also just as shocked as to what was happening. We appreciate the statements that like Afton Band made and like Justin Jones in regards to what this is, which is like state-sponsored terror. I'm 100% sure that at the state level, there must have been knowledge of this operation that was happening, and that's just a massive, like, inhumane, collaboration that they did.
Well, speaking of statements, so Mayor O'Connell's initial statement, he wrote, "I want to be clear, no MNPD personnel were involved in last night's enforcement action, and that MNPD only participated because protesters were on site. But as you mentioned, volunteers saw them on site before the vigil started. What are your thoughts on this discrepancy?"
As a person who was one of the first three to arrive, I really hope that Freddie revisits and checks his sources, because we have photos of MMPD cars pulling out of there. We have photos of MMPD vehicles parked there. The press arrived, MMPD vehicles rolled out. We have photos of MPD personnel speaking with the GEO bus driver, which is a transportation agency that bussed people out. So whether there was communication between them, 100%. Absolutely, there was communication. And that's what we're asking for. We're asking for like full transparency as to what level of communication and coordination they did and to make commitments that those won't happen in the future. I'm sorry that Mayor O'Connell is put in a position where he's going to have to, revisit and investigate his own team. But the truth of the matter is that before anybody was outside, MMPD was parked at the ICE field office.
On Blue Sky, Mayor O'Connell wrote, "I highly recommend people contact their state and federal representatives about this matter." What's your response to that?
I think leadership exists at all levels, and passing the buck is definitely a tactic that we have seen public officials do. And we have also seen public officials take bold leadership. And I would really invite our city council members, our mayor, our clergy people to consider what bold leadership looks at a time when we see an extension of like a fascist administration, when we see state resources being used as an extension of federal inhumane immigration policies. So I really hope that they reconsider, whose responsibility at this. I'm sure they're going to come up with reasons why each person was stopped. And I'm pretty sure those reasons are all BS, but the truth of the matter is that if THP is practicing this on the immigrant community, the next phase of this is going to be practicing this on the non-immigrant community, and so do we really want to have an expansion of the police state, or do we need like bold leadership to call it what it is?
We reached out to the mayor's office for answers yesterday, and they sent us an updated statement that read, in part, "I'm heartbroken that Nashville today is experiencing fear over family separation rather than the safety we all deserve, and that he's doing everything in his power to protect people who call Nashville home." This to me feels like a more thought out statement. How does it make you feel?
I actually haven't seen that statement. So this is kind of the first time that I'm hearing this, but I can tell if somebody who has lived here for 20 years, Nashville is home. And, the thriving Nashville economy is built upon immigrant labor. I mean, you go to downtown and you see all of those cranes and you walk around and you're going to hear Spanish music playing in Spanish. You're going to see our working class communities cleaning the hotels, building the buildings, like cutting the lawns. Nashville's thriving economy is built on immigrant labor. We are part of this. We have made the city what it is, and we need to be valued and respected at all levels, and it's a shame that our state is okay with exploiting our labor, but doesn't want our culture and doesn't want our people. And I just want to remind that anybody who lives in Tennessee is benefiting from immigrant labor, from the food that you eat, the clothes that you are wearing. Everything is built upon the hands and the backs of immigrants, and we just need to value everyone here.
Yesterday afternoon, Mayor O'Connell hosted a press conference. He reiterated the statement that was sent to us and said that MNPD was at the Icefield office Sunday for unrelated reasons. Metro Legal Director Wally Dietz has sent a letter to THP asking that they identify the individuals who were arrested and their charges. and he will be sending a similar letter to ICE. The Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee has launched the Belonging Fund in collaboration with Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors, Conexión Americas, and Turk to raise money to support our immigrant community, especially those impacted by this ICE action. The fund is now live at cfmt.org/belonging. This Mother's Day, if you're fortunate enough to have a great mom in your life, do not forget to call her like I did last year. To make it up to my mom this year, I am showing up with an Aura digital frame fully loaded with adorable photos of, well, me. I picked out the most ridiculous photos I could find, like baby me eating a houseplant or that awkward senior pic where I'm hugging a fence for some reason. After we have a good laugh, I'll show my mom how easy it is to swap out the pictures so she can add in shots of her grandkids too. Aura Frames was named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter and featured in 495 gift guides last year. I know my mom will love it, and no matter who you give it to, they will too. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver Mat frame. That's auraframes.com. Promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey CityCast. Something I appreciate about the Cozy Earth Mother's Day sale is that they know motherhood looks different on everyone. So whether you're raising kids, dogs, or cane, all moms work hard and they deserve comfort. So let me tell you about these Cozy Earth sheets. They feel like cool water in a sort of, is this the Ritz-Carlton or my own bedroom kind of way. The pajamas are what I imagine celebrity moms sleep in, buttery soft. You're looking for the right gift because the women who raised you feel like home. And they are going to love Cozy Earth bamboo pajamas, and I know this because it's 3:24 p.m. and I'm still wearing mine. To celebrate moms everywhere, Cozy Earth is supporting your favorite local podcast and giving our listeners a special promo. 45% off site-wide. This is a luxury brand, and that is a mind-blowing deal. Use Cozy Nashville to take advantage of 45% off at CozyEarth.com.
We read that some of the people who were detained may have been parents whose children were left alone in the car. Will this event change the way the Nashville immigrant community goes about their daily lives?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're feeling it today, like the immigrant community is smart and agile and connected and strong and organized, and we're going to get through this. We've gotten through worst, and this is just something else that we have to adapt to. And it's unfortunate that we have to adapt to this, but this is only going to strengthen the way that we organize. The lessons that we've learned over the weekend are going to be shared with other cities across the state and other groups across the state and outside of our state, so they can be ready for when THP and ICE attempts to do that somewhere else.
Well, that brings us to learning more about the Remix Tennessee. What is that, and what is your mission?
The Remix Tennessee is an all-volunteer run organization made out of concerned community residents that wants just to see a better city for all. We host trainings and info sessions on how the community should prepare for these kinds of things. We also do work advocating at the local and the state level for better practices in our education system, better practices in our healthcare, just like a better world for all of us. They're just people who care. We're just a community of people who care.
Would you mind just briefly sharing your immigrant story with us?
Sure. So I moved to Nashville in 2001. Nashville has been home for me, 24 years, so the majority of my adult life. I am a DACA holder, so I was brought to the United States at a young age, and through the DACA program that Obama started, I have been able to acquire a work permit, which allows me a driver's license, but I have worked in all corners of the city through holding all different types of jobs. I have marched in so many actions, visited all the parks, Nashville is my home. The reason I show up is because I want this place to be better for all of us. I'm also active in the transportation world and have been advocating for like bike lanes because I want us to have like a thriving transportation system that creates like culture and vibrancy. The reason I show up and do these things is because I want us to be better, because we all deserve better.
Over 100,000 people in our community voted for Trump and his deportation policies. Some are even celebrating these actions that we saw over the weekend. What do you want them to know about you and your community?
I feel like the narrative that Trump sold on people, he pulled on their pain points. You know, people are suffering, people have low wages, people want stable housing, good jobs. So he pulled on their pain points and he sold immigrant deportation as the solution to that. I heard of this from Marisa Franco from Mi Gente. She said something like, he sold a can of goods that deportation was going to fix their problems. And it's just not going to do it. Immigrant labor runs this country. And I am of the crowd that once they make the realization that they have more in common with an immigrant family that lives down the road than Elon Musk and Bezos who sit behind the president, then we will build something better in this country. At the end of the day, it's not the person who lives down the street from you that's also struggling to pay their rent and feed their family that is the enemy. It is the people who are refusing to take accountability and to pay their taxes and are manipulating the government on a federal level. It is because of Elon. It is because of Trump and Bezos and Zuckerberg that we don't have healthcare. They have amassed so much wealth. They could never even spend it on their lifetime. And this attack on immigrants is literally, you're attacking your neighbor for breadcrumbs. So, so I'm hopeful that we will open up that vision and that people will realize that we have more in common with immigrant communities and working class communities, and that we can build a better existence, a better future.
If people at home are listening and feel compelled to get involved, how can they help with the remix? What should they do? And is there a mutual aid fund people can donate to if they're not able to actually show up in person?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our Instagram pages and our Facebook pages would be the best way to connect with us. So we share opportunities to connect through those mediums. So that's like the Remix at Tennessee at Facebook. And on Instagram, we have the Music City Migra Watch and the Remix TN. We also recently published a link, kind of like a GoFundMe style, to raise money for the families of detained ones. And we'll be distributing those funds to them because, we know that people still have to pay rent. And so that's another way that people want to support. And lastly, we invite you to call your council member, call Chief Drake, call Freddie, and ask for full transparency on MMPD's presence at the ICE facility. Tell them that is unacceptable and that we just want full transparency there.
There's a specially called Metro Council meeting tomorrow night that will allow public comments. What will you be asking our leaders to do from here?
Yeah, we are so glad that leadership, and we're talking about bold leadership, stepped up and organized this. We're asking for a full transparency on MMPD's actions and a deepened commitment to not participate in any way with ICE enforcement in our city. Yesterday when the bus rolled out filled with people that a day earlier were just living their lives in Nashville. They were just driving cars on Nolensville Road in Harding. We came together because we felt that impact in our soul. And I just want to remind people that in these lands, in Tennessee, in the South, our ancestors have fought bigger fights. We live in a land where slavery was legal, where Black people were enslaved, and here we are in the future, which is now the present, and we have to look towards the future and know that we will get through this. We will be victorious. We will create a better existence than what the people in power are trying to push for us. So hold on, create that vision for yourself, and show up. It's hard. But it's harder when you do it alone. So show up, get in community, connect with an organization. We're going forward.
Yeah, just remember you are not alone, and it is absolutely worth fighting for your neighbors. Brenda, thank you again so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you again for having us.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you'd like to contribute to the Nashville Unidos Mutual Aid Fund, please visit remixtn.betterworld.org. If you enjoy the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!